started when this all comes to be. I think
Because we're now streaming live.
it says.
Yeah, on mine it does.
Okay, so it looks like we are streaming live on Facebook. Um, so welcome everyone to Inspiring Change 2021. My name is Janice Amiro, and I'm the founder of Janice Inspiring Change Holistic Nutrition. And when December started to come to an end, I thought I would do something. I thought, what can I do to inspire people to make change in the new year? So I thought, what better way to do that than to invite people that I know, holistic practitioners who inspire change in others, to join me and have some conversation. So here we go with my first guest, and that is Vaughn Wallace. Welcome, Vaughn. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Vaughn and I met in Qatar. We both lived there on the same compound, and now we're both living in Nova Scotia. And I think that's pretty cool because, we didn't know each other until we moved to Qatar. So that's pretty neat. So we meet regularly and have some great conversations. And I've been picking her brain. I thought she would be a great person to come and talk on my live interviews. So Vaughn, I'm just going to introduce you so people have a little bit of idea of what you do. So, and who you are. Vaughn Wallace is an ICF Certified Life Coach and yoga teacher. She has 20 years of experience in the field of community development and adult education with an MED in adult education. Yoga has been in her life for years, but for the past 10 years, she's been seriously studying and practicing and has spent time in India and Thailand studying yoga history and philosophy and multiple practices in both Krishnamacharya and Kuvalaya Ananda lineages. I don't know if I said that right.
Yeah, quite close.
Okay. She holds a passion for the power of change coming from within individuals and collectives, grassroots movements, and this has inspired her to merge her yoga practices and philosophy with life coaching and NLP, neuro linguistics programming. So welcome, Vaughn.
Thank you.
Wow, that's pretty impressive. I'm sure that people are listening in are going to want to know more about what that all means and how you work with people. So what? Just so tell me what it is that that you do and how do you work with people?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I'd like to say thank you for having me here, Janice. And it's a nice way to have our coffee this week.
Yes, exactly.
As you said, we often meet and we have coffee and have great chats. And so now we're doing this with a bigger group today.
Yeah.
So yeah. So how do I work? How do I work with people? So I guess it evolved over time. I started working, like you said, in community development. And before I went to Qatar, I had a strong interest in change coming from within individuals. And I guess that started when I was a kid. I always was a bit of a rebel, and I always wanted to see people make change for themselves, and people that didn't have a chance to speak to get a chance to speak. And so I did the thing that a lot of people do. I went to university. I studied something that I didn't necessarily want to study.
Yeah.
And then I started working and in the corporate world early on. And then I quickly I wasn't working with myself. I was working against myself. So it wasn't true to who I was. And I went back and studied community development. So I did an adult ed degree. And then I started working in different parts of the country and working with multiple groups, different communities. And it was wonderful experiences. And then as I went to Doha, in Qatar, I worked there sort of in the same idea, but quite different. It was teaching, but not community development. And so I longed for that and went back. And at the same time was studying a lot of yoga. And again, that's about people, the power of change coming from within the individual. So that merged, and then more some training in coaching, and I was really interested in from that perspective, and it's just taken off from there. So now when I work with people, it has changed a great deal from where I started, and now it's working with people from where they are in their present state right now, and how they feel, and how they'd like to see themselves feeling in a different way, and experiencing things in a different way. So oftentimes, a lot of us are stressed or depressed, or just not reaching the goals that we want to reach, whether it's work or relationship, so it's not counseling at all. It's really the type of what coaching really is it's turning the conversation back towards the individual, and not asking about history or the past. It's really about being here right now, and saying, what do you see, hear, and feel? What would you like to see, hear, and feel for yourself today? And how can we get closer to that? And so the resources come from that the individual, and we work towards that becoming a reality for them.
Right. So a client could have a client could come to you with because they're stressed. Whoops. Because they're stressed, or because they don't feel like they are in the right balance, or what do you find is the main? Is there some type of concern, or not problem, but reason why people go to see you?
Yeah, I think the reasons are different, but what happens is the reason that they come to see me is usually not the thing that it ends up becoming. Of course, it's rooted in something else. And I think a lot of health or natural health practitioners probably see that all the time. So it often starts out with stress and burnout when I see people. Not meeting the goals that they're setting for themselves, not satisfied. Relationship issues are often a big one within the family. It could be the partner, but it also could be, it could be children, it could be mother-in-law, different issues within the family. Communication is a huge one. And of course, communication with oneself and what they're saying to themselves. So that's often what it ends up being. That's not what they present it as. People don't come and say, well, I'm having a bad relationship with myself. But that's where it ends up, we end up going back to, because the communication starts with you, the connection. And it often is seen as something outside of ourselves. And it is, because it's really happening, but it's really located within ourselves. Our connection to ourselves is the source of greatest suffering.
Right.
Is our own mind. So,
Right.
and that seems to be the path it takes.
The path it takes. I have a couple of questions based on what you just said, but I want to reintroduce you. For those of you that are just joining us, I'm talking with Vaughn Wallace, and she is a certified life coach. She's a yoga teacher, and she has, for the past 10 years, yoga has kind of taken more of a role in her life. And she's been seriously studying and practicing. And she was able to travel to Thailand and India and study yoga history there. And now she's combining that with NLP, neuro linguistic programming. So we were just talking about clients and why they might go to see you. And you said that they may not really know why they might be out of balance. So
Yeah.
I guess it's mostly it's mostly a stressor that exists, and do you find that people, how does it go, and do you think that people try to um, get rid of the stressor rather than kind of go, can you kind of
Yes,
explain that a little
absolutely.
bit? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a fixed idea. A lot of people have a fixed idea in their minds as to what the problem is. And there's often a lot of resistance for them to, kind of put that aside for a minute and then just let's come into the present moment where you are and move away from a story. And I don't mean like it's not true. It really is happening. It's a
Yeah.
perspective on what's happening, but it's really happening.
Mhm.
And it's causing, stress and suffering. But it really asks them to come to themselves. And there's a series of questions that I ask them in a way that I ask them. Um, and it's influenced by my coaching training, but neuro linguistics training as well, um, and breath work that I use in it. And it slows them down and gets them to come to the presence of who they are, and and then answer the questions, and then they really start to slow down, and then they really start to see this internal landscape that exists within themselves. And it's what are you seeing there? What are you feeling? What are you saying? What, sometimes, the saying, the forest, it's you can't see the forest for the trees.
Mhm.
Well, this is the case because what a lot of people have laid down is all these pathways of speaking to themselves and seeing things in their internal space that they don't even realize they're seeing and hearing, but they've run these programs for so long, they exist within themselves, they're so familiar, they're so there, they're just like part of the furniture in the room, that they don't even notice it. But when they do notice it through the questioning, they're a bit shocked at what it's
Yeah.
like. They're bringing their inside out into the open, the light of day. And when they see it, it's like, yeah, I knew that was always there. And my gosh, that is shocking, you know.
Yeah.
And and so that's when the real change starts to occur.
So when you say, for someone who might not really understand, this has never really ventured into understanding or working with someone like yourself that does this type of practice, um, what would you how would you explain, you mentioned the program that the person is kind of living,
Yeah.
so could you explain that, think of a different, make that a little bit clearer for people, because I
Yeah.
think a lot of people don't really understand that they are living this program, and we seem to hear a lot more about this right now. So can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when we come into this world, we're with our families in the beginning, our moms and dads, and they too, they lived in a culture, in a period of time in history, in a gender, in an economic status. There's certain values and beliefs around their experience, their socialization, and then we enter, and we can feel it from them, especially when we're under the age of 7. We really can feel a lot of what they're feeling. Um, we might not necessarily understand it on an intellectual level, but we do feel the stress that they feel, the pain that they feel, the happiness that they feel, the confidence that they feel. And we start to absorb that. And every word that they say to us is absorbed. The things teachers say to us is absorbed. And they start to run and start to create neural pathways in the brain. And we lay those neural pathways down. And the more we revisit it, the more they become stronger and stronger, and they become our beliefs, and who we see, what we see in the world runs through, is filtered through these beliefs. So it's almost as if we're filtering the world through this set of beliefs and values that has been presented to us and we've absorbed. So now we start to filter, and it becomes something that our brain just goes to. It just starts to run that path. It's like learning language, you're learning values and beliefs about yourself, about the world around you, your fears, your hopes, your desires. All of this starts to become who you are. And we're influenced, of course, we know that, by our culture and by our gender, parents. And we have to work to shift that sometimes.
Mhm.
And then it enters not only the mind, of course, because we know there's a body connection. And we know there's so much talk about somatics and trauma these days. And it enters also our muscular system, our nervous system. What we see and hear and experience enters our nervous system. We may not even remember a lot of things that were very scary or, you know, uh, gave us feelings in our body that we're not comfortable with. We just know we get triggered by these. We're not necessarily conscious of these unconscious neural pathways that have been laid down. And so what I do is work with also the unconscious and bring that to the conscious mind, because that is what's happened. It becomes sort of like the background, the structure through which we experience the world, we filter, and then it may need some adjustments, and so that you can experience a different situation.
Right.
Yeah.
So once you work with a person and you are able to get through and make some breakthrough with perhaps where the root of their feelings are and what has or brought them to where they are today, and they think, wow, I never looked at it that way, or I see that very clearly now. So the stressor's still there. That doesn't change. So what's the next step for someone who is who you help to bring these things to the surface? Then what can happen there? What do you do? What do they do?
Yeah. So I guess you could say the goal is that then a lot of things start to happen as they start to see it themselves. The goal is that they start to become independent really quickly of seeing these things and experiencing a different world for themselves. And they don't need as much maybe direction or questioning. They learn the techniques that I'm presenting to them, but they use them on themselves. So the idea is that they wouldn't keep coming to see me over a very long time. The hope would be, of course, they quickly become very independent, but there's a shift because they see that they're holding themselves back through their own mind. And then they can see that there's techniques. And that's what, I'm teaching them techniques of slowing down, of noticing, of breathing. And then that becomes so exciting for people because they see that they have so much power. They have way more power, and they're not subject to the power of the situation or the person.
Right.
And so that is a beautiful thing. That's exactly what we're working towards. And that's what people, they love it because their lives just change.
That's
and they
right.
see themselves as quite powerful.
So
Yes.
basically, what this does is, the way I'm understanding it, it raises awareness to the way you look at the stressor and the reason why you react to the stressor the way you do.
Yeah.
Okay.
The way you react to it, and people have the other person outside of you. It may be a misinterpretation of what you're seeing. It could be exactly true to what you're seeing. But the point is that it's triggering something in you. So somebody else, they may see this person that is maybe a difficult communication experience, but they don't get triggered by it. We all know that sometimes there's people that just don't trigger us, even if they could be a possible trigger, they just don't.
Mhm.
And that is likely because there is something in you also that needs to heal. And it's being pointed out to you. It's a fortunate situation because the system is so smart. Your body and mind is so smart. It's always trying to come back to equilibrium.
Mhm, mhm.
And so this is a chance for you to heal a filter that's not working for you, a
Right.
value, a belief system, a perspective that's not working for you.
So I mentioned when I did the write up on Facebook to introduce you that we would talk about the mind body connection and the emotional, and that those two elements is what really creates the balance. Um, so what is the so I from my understanding we've talked about the mind. So how does the body, can you explain that? The mind and
Yeah.
body
So the
connection.
mind and body are one. And so the thought comes in, and then we know ourselves when a thought can come in, then we have sensations in the body. It can be a nervous stomach, a racing heart, um, many different, you start to sweat, or there could be excitement or happiness, or the feelings of happiness, like the sensations of happiness. You could experience also, if you were practicing um, yoga, you might notice sometimes, or meditation, you'll notice that there's space has been created away from those thoughts and you're not as triggered. So it's more about um, being present to yourself, connected to you.
Mhm.
The greatest gift to anyone in the world is that you're connected to yourself. Um, and the connection comes to the body. We've been given this body, and this body is the thing that signals to us what we're thinking and feeling. So if we're paying attention to all these sensations that are arising, and if they're not pleasant, we need to kind of check in with ourselves.
Mhm.
We need to slow the breath down, move away from the thought, and then come back to it, maybe with a different thought, a different perspective. So there's the great sage Patanjali in yoga, the father of yoga, thousands of years ago, wrote the Yoga Sutras. And the Yoga Sutras tell the practitioner how they can move towards a state of freedom,
Mhm.
samadhi. And there's different levels of freedom, but it all starts with freedom from the mind. He doesn't talk about freedom from other people or situations or the body or disease. Um, it's very practical, and you're instructed in how to move away from move with the movements of the mind and not be taken over by them. And so it starts off by, in Sanskrit, it says, Chitta Vritti Nirodha, which means the mind, if you can work with the fluctuations of the mind, you don't have to read the rest of this book.
Uh-huh.
And so Chitta Vritti Nirodha. So, and a lot of people that do yoga know that saying,
Yeah.
but that is, like if you can work with the movements of the mind, you don't need any further instruction there. If you can have peace and work with the movements of the mind. Because the mind is really when we experience the mind, we're experiencing us, I,
Yeah.
and then you, and then everything outside of us. So the mind is extremely important when we want to work with ourselves and have a connection.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
What do you think might be, if somebody might be interested in learning more or having a session, an NLP session, what do you think could be a common reservation? Do you have any answer there?
Yeah, I think a common reservation amongst myself and others that do this type of work has been, I think we're entering a time when people are becoming more receptive. It's starting to become that way. A lot of people, it's like a lot of things, and then we put things off because we're busy and we don't. The reservation would be, what is that? I don't know what that is. Um, I can talk to a friend about things. I can have a chat. That helps me. But it's not about, it's really the misconception about coaching or NLP is that it really is not about talking about your problems, because that is the last thing we want to do in a session, actually. And your friend might want to be hearing about your problems or help you in that way, very compassionate, but that's not a movement that we do in coaching at all. It's not encouraged in either in NLP. You want to work with the mind and how the mind is working. So people that are trained in this area are trying to see how the individual is experiencing their own mind, and to show them, point them in a direction that could be much more comfortable for them, a state that will be helpful, and give them more range to work with in terms of a different state they can access. So the reservation would be that people don't really understand that it goes beyond, and doesn't even include actually talking about your problems, but people think it's like, I can talk to my friends, so why would I do that? So I think it's a lot about not really knowing what it is, and feeling that it can be done myself. I'll get a book and I'll read that, and maybe dipping into it, and then in experiencing the issue, and then saying, oh, that's a little uncomfortable, I don't want to go there. So there's a whole bunch of different things, but these are the most common.
Yeah, I think that's exactly it with it's, what will be discovered or uncovered, and then I have to really change. I have to make big changes if I'm faced with this. And the reason that it's causing me so many problems is because I'm living with it, and it's sometimes easier not to change, easier not to be aware, because really what this does is it raises awareness in how we react to life, really.
It is.
And, yeah. And
yeah, that's absolutely that. It's all of that. Yeah.
So if we don't want to change, then or if we're afraid, that can, I think, stop some people from. It's just too much work, or it's too scary.
It's scary. It's uncomfortable, and it is uncomfortable. But you have, in this type of work, you have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable, and getting really good at feeling your feelings, and not, and being okay with feeling feelings that are not comfortable, that you've been moving away from. And a lot of us we've learned to blame the outside world, and we've learned to blame other people. And we use our minds for wonderful things, for amazing things, but the mind gets overused in ways that just don't support us. And so it becomes a necessary thing to learn how to use your mind, so you can experience a state that is much more comfortable and much more true to your nature, not stressful stories that you're telling yourself, or re-experiencing. So yeah.
So what's next for you? What are you doing, and what are you doing for working on, and what's your plan for the next year with all of this?
Okay, so one thing I'll be doing is I'll be offering some workshops online.
Oh, great.
Some group workshops. One, I think I'll be ready to release in late February, and it starts off with goal setting, well-formed outcomes. And so,
and if somebody's interested, how can they get in touch with you?
Okay, so I'll have a link to my website on some advertising that I'll be sending out on Facebook. Also, I'll just look to my website in the next few weeks, and that's Open Sky, Open Heart. All one word, Open Sky. Open Sky, Open Heart. And they'll likely be advertising on Facebook as well in the next few weeks about goal setting. So They
Oh,
can find
that's
it there. If they want to book a session as well, they'd go through that website.
okay. Open heart, open sky, open heart.
Yeah, open sky, open sky,
Sky,
open heart.
Great. That sounds
Open
awesome.
sky, open heart, yes. Yeah.
Is there anything else that you'd like to add? It's already been almost a half hour since we've been chatting. We
Yeah,
chat for hours, you and I.
I know. Well, let me see. One thing I'd like to just like maybe challenge listeners to do for the next week, if they could get up maybe 15 minutes earlier, set their alarm just 15 minutes earlier, and not talk to anybody before they do this. So it's before your eyes open, if you can possibly do this without speaking to anyone, is to just get a comfortable space, either in a chair in your room or somewhere in the house, and just sit down for 15 minutes and inhale and exhale with your feet on the floor and your shoulders down and your bum in the seat, the nice straight back, and set your timer for 15 minutes and inhale and exhale and be present to your inhale and your exhale for 15 minutes. And you could add to that too. You could, with the inhale, you could say I, and the exhale, you could say am.
Mhm.
Inhale, here. Inhale, exhale. I am here now in this. So with each word, there's 6 words there. You do an inhale and an exhale. I am here now in this.
I am here now in this.
In this. Yeah.
So there's a challenge for our listeners today. Get up, 15 minutes earlier and sit in a chair, feet on the floor, and breathe in and out. I am here now in this.
This.
Yeah.
And the hope would be that you will just create a space of connection to yourself and just notice what happens over the course of a week. So we're just looking at doing that for 7 days and
Mhm.
see what difference that might make
Mhm.
in your day.
Well, thank you so much, Vaughn.
You're welcome.
I've been speaking with Vaughn Wallace. OpenSkyOpenHeart.com is her website. She's going to be starting some coaching programs, goal setting programs soon in February, hopefully.
Yeah.
And so get in touch with her. I'll be sharing this on this video and she can share it as well. So thank you everyone for joining me and Vaughn on the first of a few interviews that I'm going to do for Inspiring Change 2021. Again, I'm Janice, and my motto is Inspiring Change. And we will see you tomorrow. I have another interview with the lovely Rose tomorrow, and I'll put some information on Facebook about that. So thank you, Vaughn, and thank you, viewers, and we'll see you again soon. Thank you. Bye for now.
Bye.